ladies, it's Raquel here. Welcome to Women Living Torah, and we are making our way through the 30-day Sabbath challenge by Amy K. Gunther. We are on week 2, and last week we talked about homemaking routines and how preparing for Shabbat can absolutely transform all of our homemaking to give us more order and more peace and ultimately more rest when it comes to the Sabbath. So today we are going to talk about meal prepping and planning and cooking for Shabbat. Amy talks about some different tips and tricks for cooking for Sabbath in week 2. So I'm going to go a little bit further and we're going to discuss how I meal plan. We're going to discuss some different tips that you can streamline your Shabbat cooking. We're also going to discuss different categories of foods that work really well for Shabbat, as well as some specific dishes that I like to make within those categories. And I know we have all different kinds of taste preferences among us and probably different cultures and ethnic cuisine that we like to cook, but hopefully this video is just going to give you some inspiration and ideas, and I would love to hear from you in the comments. What do you cook for Shabbat? What do you cook for Erev Shabbat, for Shabbat breakfast, for Shabbat lunch if you're going to a fellowship? And then what do you cook when you come home from Shabbat fellowship for dinner as Shabbat is ending? There are so many meals that could be made. I would love to hear what your favorites are, and hopefully we can glean from each other some different ideas. Let me begin with meal planning, and let me kind of preface this whole section with that I am a very old-fashioned person, and if you think about your great-great-grandparents and people who lived well before us, they generally grew what they were going to eat and they ate what they were going to grow, with the exception of maybe going to the mercantile and having some sugar or flour and trading with their neighbors and their friends. But their options were limited of what they could cook from what they had right there at their fingertips, what they were growing, what they were raising for themselves. And they didn't have every kind of exotic spice and grain and fruit and vegetable and endless possibilities. They didn't have the internet at their fingertips telling them that this, amazing dish is out there in the world. They just knew what they had, and they created dishes and meals from what they had. And so I'm kind of very much the same way. I like to take a very simple approach to my cooking and to my meal planning, and that is if I can grow it, if I can procure it locally, and obviously there, salt, for example, is not, I don't think, found in Idaho, but it can be procured, then I try to use those ingredients as much as possible. And here in North Idaho, we grow a lot of potatoes, carrots, onions, garlic, cabbage, things like that, and so that shows up a lot in my cooking. And I don't go out and buy, dragon fruit or other things and make those into my dishes. I can occasionally, for a treat, choose to buy this or that or try something different just for fun. But as far as like my staples and my basics and what I am relying on to keep my sanity as I am meal planning and cooking throughout the week and preparing for meals for Shabbat, I'm really looking at limiting my options and just kind of cooking with the same ingredients and making things based off of those same ingredients. It really lessens and lightens your mental load if you limit your options. So with that in mind, here's how I meal plan. The very first thing I do is I go to my refrigerator and I look at my leftovers, and I think about how I can turn those leftovers from this previous week into a new dish. So I see I have chicken, I see I have rice, and I know I have broccoli in the freezer, and so I think, oh, there's chicken and rice casserole right there. And now that I've been doing this for a while, I look at the things in my refrigerator that are leftovers, and ideas just kind of come to me of what I can make them into. But I do keep a running list of meals actually in this clipboard of dinner ideas and breakfast ideas, snack and miscellaneous ideas, dessert ideas, and then I also have like condiments and sauces ideas. And if I am just kind of really drawing a blank as I'm looking at my leftovers, then I can refer to this list and be like, oh yeah, that's a great idea to make that rice and that chicken into chicken and rice casserole, So first, I look at my leftovers, and honestly, some of those dishes that I make from leftovers are some of the best dishes. Probably because all of those spices and sauces have just been melding together there in the refrigerator, and it just comes out really yummy. So first step is I check my leftovers, and I turn those leftovers into new dishes. The second thing I do when I'm making a meal plan is I look at the rest of my refrigerator and my freezer and my chest freezer and my pantry, and I think about what I can make from those ingredients. So, oh, I've got got tons of carrots, I've got tons of potatoes, tons of onions and garlic. There's some roasted vegetables right there. I've got tons of chicken, roasted chicken and vegetables right there. And so again, I can refer back to that running list if I need to for meal ideas, but I generally am just looking at what I have on hand and what can I cook from what I already have. Honestly, that is pretty much the bulk of my meal planning. I get most of my meals just from those two things. But if I need to kind of round out my meal plan, then I go to, okay, what is in season right now locally and what's on sale? So that's really it when it comes to meal planning. It's a very basic, simple thing that I do, but it helps me to be frugal and resourceful and creative with the things that I have and to not waste anything, not to lose something in the back of the refrigerator or the freezer, just to use what I have. Let's talk about some tips for streamlining Erev Shabbat and the day of Shabbat meals. And the first one is one that I do every single Erev Shabbat, and I have done it for the day of Shabbat meals, but I'm not currently. And so that is to make the same thing every single week. I know you've probably heard me say this so many times on this channel, but it's because it is super helpful when you don't have to think about what you're making and everything is just kind of muscle memory. So every Erev Shabbat, I make a roasted chicken, roasted vegetables, which is usually potatoes, garlic, onions, and carrots, and then I make a salad, challah, and then like a fruit cobbler or fruit crisp, something like that. It's the same every week, but I change up the spices, I maybe change up the vegetables, and that gives, different taste for us each week, but it's still the very same process and just really easy on me as the homemaker. I know exactly when I need to take the chicken out of the freezer, I know exactly when I need to start the dinner, and I can make sure it just all finishes exactly at the time that I want it to for us to begin dinner because I've made it so often. And it also comes like one of the dishes I cook the absolute best and know how to make because I'm constantly doing it and getting better at it. So this one is super helpful, making the same thing every week. And like I said, I've also done this in the past for the day of Shabbat. So Shabbat morning it used to always be muffins and like an egg salad. And then lunch was chicken and rice and broccoli casserole or peas or something like that. And then dinner was always chili. And that was my, thing every single week. We were just having that same thing. And that really lightens your mental load and helps you with your meal planning and your cooking as you're preparing for Shabbat. But if you don't want to cook the same thing every week, then here's another idea for you and tip number 2, which is to double a dish during the week. So if you are already making a soup, might as well make a big pot of soup and put some of that in the freezer for Shabbat. If you're already making 1 pan of enchiladas, you might as well make 2 pans of enchiladas and put that one in the freezer for Shabbat. And this is just a great way to incorporate Shabbat food prep into your week and kind of spread it out throughout the week instead of doing it like, let's say, all on Friday, which is what I generally do right now. The other thing, and this is tip 3 that you can do to streamline your Shabbat prep, is to do a bulk cooking day. And honestly, you can get a ton of meals made in an hour. When you've got a plan, you've got your ingredients there, and let's say you are incorporating a lot of the same types of ingredients where you can chop your potatoes all at once, chop your peppers all at once, but then it goes into different dishes. That is so helpful. You just bulk prep within an hour or 2 hours even. You put all those meals in the freezer, and what's great about this is not only is it super easy for you from Shabbat to just go out and pull out what you need, but it helps you to be more hospitable. If you have a friend who's had a baby, pull a meal out, send it to them. If someone's sick, pull a meal out, give it to them. When we are not like just trying to survive and just trying to keep our sanity intact with our own meal planning and cooking, we tend to be a lot more generous. And so I do really love this idea, and I have done it in the past. I don't currently have a bunch of meals in my freezer, but this one is really a great one for just being more hospitable and also, using your time, I think, the most efficiently, which is just bulk batch cooking in an hour or 2, storing them all, and then taking them out as needed. And then I would just say that other than that, if you're not making the same thing every week, if you are not doubling a dish during the week, if you're not bulk prepping your food for the whole month, let's say, that week, then you might want to, of course, meal plan, but have a day specifically set aside for cooking. And for me, that's Friday. So in the previous video, I shared my homemaking routines are from Sunday to Thursday, and that's when I get the majority of everything done, with the exception of floors on Friday, and then my, running list and little odd and end type things that I need to do on Friday. But Friday is pretty much exclusively reserved for cooking. So I take that meal plan that I made, that I talked about earlier in this video, and I just enact that meal plan on Friday, cooking everything that I need for the next day. Now, before I go on to categories of food that really lend themselves to Shabbat meals and to be left on keep warm forever in the Instant Pot, and specific dishes that I like to make within those categories, I first want to ask you to please like this video if you're finding it helpful, and I also want to tell you about the giveaway that I'm doing with Amy at Torah Sisters, who's also the author of the 30-Day Sabbath Challenge. She sent our community 6 prizes, and they include some of her books, some of her magazines, and some of her stickers at Torah Sisters. And so we're so grateful for those, and you can have 1 entry per video of this 30-Day Sabbath Challenge series. And all you have to do is 1, comment and let me know that you want to be entered into the giveaway, because I know not everyone who comments wants to be in the giveaway. And the second thing you have to do is the task that I ask you to do each video. And it's just an honor system. You go, you do the task, and then you come back to the comments and you say, I did the task and I would like to be entered in the giveaway. And that's it. So the task for this video is I am trying to professionally illustrate a children's book for our community. We've got Christian literature, we've got Jewish literature, but we have very little high quality literature that reflects us, that reflects our lifestyle, that our children can see themselves in. And so I've written a story about a little girl preparing for Shabbat with her mother throughout the week. It's a really precious story, and I wanted to get it professionally illustrated. I wanted to do the job really well. And so I have hired a fellow Torah keeper who has a family and they're homesteading, so we're supporting a great work in paying him to do the illustrations, and I am putting every cent that I can from this channel, from the Etsy shop, into those illustrations. We've raised just over half of what's needed. We only have a little bit more to go, and he is working on them as we speak. He's working on the pictures and the illustrations as we speak. I'm so excited about this book. And so the task for today's video is to go to the GoFundMe link that I am putting in the description box and in the pinned comments, and not to donate. You're under no obligation to donate to this cause, but to simply read through it and then share this GoFundMe with someone. It could be one person, it could be to your fellowship's group text, it could be on social media. Share it somewhere. I'm just trying to get the word out about these illustrations so we can get that last little bit of funds to get this project done. So if you would share the GoFundMe link, then come back, let me know that you did share it and that you did want to be entered in the giveaway, and you will receive an entry into our giveaway. So I really appreciate you doing that and just helping to spread the word about this project. So now let's talk about 5 categories of food that really lend themselves well to Shabbat. These are foods that maybe can be kept on warm or slow cook for a very long time and not burn or dry out. These are foods that only take 1 pot, maybe 2, so you're not having a mountain of dishes to clean after Shabbat is over. And I would recommend, if you don't have ideas for these categories already, and I'm going to give you some, but if you can't think of others, then get some cookbooks from the library or look in your own library of cookbooks and try to find meals that meet these categories, and you'll hopefully come up with a whole bunch of Shabbat potential meals. And I just want to say that there may be differences of opinion of what's okay to do on Shabbat for cooking and what's not okay. So I'm just giving some ideas, and take what you can, leave what you can't take, and hopefully there will be something here for everyone. So the first category of food that works really well for Shabbat are creamy casseroles. And these are really nice because they can go in just one casserole dish in the refrigerator, take it out when you need it, and start reheating it, and it's all right there. And it's creamy on the inside, so it's not getting dried out and whatnot. So things I like to make in this category are shepherd's pie, chicken pot pie, chicken and rice and broccoli casserole, and enchiladas. Those are some really simple, creamy casserole dishes. The second category are saucy dishes. So once again, we're looking at things that aren't going to get really dried out when they've been sitting forever in the Instant Pot on slow cook. And so this is really where I've been at mostly for Shabbats recently. I'm really liking making saucy dishes. And so this would be things like rosemary chicken, which is basically chicken with a rosemary gravy, paprika spiced chicken, korma, which I am loving right now from Indian cuisine, honey garlic chicken. You can find recipes for all of these online. But saucy dishes I found have a pretty basic technique. You're going to simply coat your meat of choice in some flour and spices. You're going to saute it, or sear it, I mean. Then you set that to the side and you saute whatever vegetables you want. You take your meat, if you want to cut it up, you do that, and you add it back to your vegetables, and you pour in liquid. It might be water, it might be broth, and you let that all simmer together, and the spices that are on the chicken gets into that liquid, and you can of course add more if you like. And then toward the end you add some type of creamy base. So that could be coconut milk. Mayonnaise actually works really great for creamy base. It doesn't give it a weird flavor at all. I know it sounds weird, but mayonnaise works great. Yogurt or kefir or sour cream as your creamy base. You just add that in there and mix it all up, and oh my goodness, it is so good. Works with pretty much any spice combination, pretty much any meat combination, and any veggie combination. So I am loving the saucy dishes right now. Another category of food would be cold foods. So this is your chicken salad, your tuna salad, your egg salad, your pasta salad, your bean salad that you can make, or taco salad. The bean salad might be called taco salad. But you can just make it, put it in the refrigerator. It goes in one bowl. You take it out of the refrigerator, and there it is. You don't have to reheat it or anything. So cold dishes are great. The next category would be soups and stews, which right now it's kind of hot outside, maybe not the best choice, but it definitely comes in handy for fall, winter, and spring. And a good soup cookbook is just excellent to have. My favorites to make are Mexican chicken tortilla soup, chili, lentil stew. I once had a potato and turkey bacon chowder at a Shabbat group, and it was so good. So soups and stews are just a really great way to put something on. When I'm going to make a soup or a stew for Shabbat, I'll actually put it on Friday and just let it go, and the longer it cooks in my Instant Pot or in my slow cooker, the better it gets, and then it's ready, it's warm, it's all there for you. So soups and stews are great if it's the right time of year. And then I also want to mention this fifth category, because especially for gatherings, we're always thinking about like what meal we can bring, but don't forget that, a lot of times the meals, like the main dishes, are covered, but we're lacking in sides, desserts, and drinks. Those are important too, and those can really round out a meal and be nice. I know I've been to Shabbat gatherings, and we all bring chicken and rice dishes, and we have no sides and no desserts, and then another time you come and everyone brings a meat with nothing else, and you're like, okay, what am I putting with all this meat? And so it can be nice that if you're trying to think of what can I bring to Shabbat, think about what may be lacking at your fellowship already, and bring that, a side, a dessert, a drink. So that's what I have for you today, ladies, on meal planning and prepping for Shabbat. But what's so nice is that it spills over into our homemaking in general and just gives us so much more peace throughout the rest of the week. I know that there is a debate about whether it is okay or it is not okay to cook on Shabbat, and I have my own opinions about that, which don't matter. Talk with your husband, read the word for yourself, and you guys make your own decisions, and talk with those that you trust in your life. But I do know that when I decided I'm not going to cook on Shabbat anymore, I'm just going to prep everything on Friday, it took a huge mental load off of me. And I did not realize until I stopped cooking on Shabbat just how much work it is to cook. Like, it's more than just deciding what you're going to make. It's also thinking about what pots and pans are clean. It's thinking about when you need to start the food. It's thinking about the cleanup afterwards. And it's tons of minute details that, we're constantly making these decisions and thinking these thoughts throughout the week. And we don't realize that we're making them, and we're doing so much thinking as we're cooking until you just stop cooking. And you're like, whoa, I've got so much free time. My load just seems lighter. So I will say that regardless of what your thoughts are on cooking on Shabbat, whether it's allowed or whether it's not allowed, I personally found that when I stopped cooking on Shabbat, it really helped me to rest more on Shabbat. I mean, think about it. Cooking is probably one of the biggest tasks that we do as homemakers. I cook almost entirely from scratch, and I'm in the kitchen at least for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, if not other, projects I've got going on. And so that's actually a big part of my day. And when I stop that for Shabbat, it really gives me some great rest. So thank you so much for being here. I will see you next week for our week 3 of the 30-day Sabbath challenge. And until next time, I pray that Yahweh will bless you and keep you. I'll talk with you later. Goodbye.